This is an assessment support video for SSP5005 Writ1 group work. Alternative assessment students can also consider some of the points raised in this video. As outlined previously, the assessment is worth 50% of the overall module grade, equivalent to 2,500 words per person. There are 4 main deliverables as part of this group project. Deliverable 1 you've completed, group formation, group ideation tasks, and the PID document. Deliverable 2 will be covered at the end of this video with regards to the pitch presentation. You've also done a practice pitch presentation earlier on in the course. The main focus of the video is about deliverable 3, which is the written report, alongside the assessment support sessions that you've had and the examples on Moodle. The video is just some supplementary information to reinforce messages already provided. So deliverable 3 is worth 40% of this assessment mark. As a group, you have to submit 1 report for 5,000 words, and it outlines all the decision making that you've come to this point in terms of the idea generation and the development of your idea over the last several months. The report will be in some key sections which I will outline in this video, and you will need to ensure that it's presented as a report, not as an essay format. So essentially I'm looking for 3 sections for the 5,000 word report. Section 1 is a small section, 500 words. This section will outline, almost as an executive summary, your organisation in terms of its mission, its vision and its value statements, and a very brief outline of the new service or product that you will be focusing on in this report. Again, I'm looking for an authentic report format. It has to look and feel like your company organisation and a document that your organisation would produce. There are some examples available on Moodle. Mission in terms of its core purpose, vision in terms of what you aim to achieve in the medium to long term, so the next 5 years or so, and in terms of your values, what are the core values that you've discussed in terms of, if we were to identify your organisation, how would you want people to speak about it? How would you want your staff to speak about it? Those core values are quite important because they should link then to the branding discussion you have later on in this report. Section 2 is a significant section as part of this report. We're following the Simply Do Ideas framework, and I'm looking for Section 2 to include subsections linked to the concept, so the product and service, the customers, the competitors, in terms of contents, what sort of key partners, activities and resources you need, and then cash with regards to costs, revenue generation, i.e. your business model, freemium, subscription, razor and blade. You need to outline those. So under concept, I'm looking for a clear product service value proposition statement. How are you going to be adding value? What problems does it solve for your potential customers? The examples I've provided previously outline service functions and or product functions and features, visuals, screen capture of your websites or apps, imagery of what you anticipate the service looking like or the product looking like. At this stage, if you're going to be outlining key issues around problems or solutions for customers, there's an opportunity there to underpin that with industry or academic evidence to show why these problems exist. In terms of the customer section, I'm looking particularly for you to identify the likely key target markets, why there would be target markets, why would they be interested in your products and services. Again, provide evidence to support your opinions. You can use the customer segmentation tools from Sport England, Sport Wales. Again, you can cite those if that provides you a nice customer persona. And again, I'm looking for accuracy of the size of that potential market, whether it be local, regional, national that you're targeting, or international. Up-to-date, credible figures, assumptions about the customer group in terms of their profile, their background, and the need for your product. It'd be useful also to anticipate whether this is a new service offer, something unique, or whether this may be something that's adding to a group of services or products that customers may already be using. That then leads you into the second section, around the third subsection around competitors. I'm looking for a competitor analysis. I need you to use a competitor analysis framework like Porter's 5 Forces. Explain that you're using a particular framework, again using appropriate citations, and then outline who those competitors are. Maybe focus on who you think may be your immediate and most threatening competitors, and just give a little bit more of a profile around one or two, but I'd like to see a full analysis. In terms of contents, this is the what do you need to deliver your new service or product section or subsection. I'm looking for justification of key partners. I don't just want a list of key partners. I need some explanation of why you've highlighted key partners to help you deliver, what activities or resources you may need. Are you developing your own manufacturing base? Are you using other people's other people's resources? So you're using other people's facilities, but you're providing the service. Are you using other people's platforms? Do you need additional design teams? Are you going to subcontract out certain functions or features? So essentially it's the infrastructure, the resources that you anticipate that you're going to need to launch this product or service, with some explanation. In terms of the cash, the likely customer group and competitors will allow you to start thinking about what is an appropriate pricing strategy. But in this section, what I'm looking for is what you anticipate your key costs going to be, especially taking in consideration the early startup phase where you're unlikely to generate huge amounts of income through sales, but you're going to have to outlay lots of investment and costs in setting the organisation up. So need you to be clear about what your immediate setup costs are going to be, and then what your ongoing costs are going to be as your business develops over the first year to 2 years. Within this section, you also have to outline how you anticipate generating revenue. So in terms of sales strategy, revenue generation and business model, you need to outline what your strategy is going to be. This is again an opportunity for you to underpin your assumptions with appropriate citations. We've looked at business model generation and key business model types, Professor Gassman, and refer back to some of those articles. Are you going to be specifically focusing on a hybrid style business model where you might have multiple elements, so a freemium based front end with subscription add-ons, a little bit like Skype, or are you just going to have a membership subscription? You need to be clear about what it is you're going to be doing and why this will work for you. Some examples of how product specifications are put into that section. Some good work from previous students. Section 3 is also a large section, so this isn't a traditional business plan but a pitch scoping report, and in this sense what I'm looking for is this section 3 to focus on how you are likely to bring the product service to life and how you're going to secure those customers in the first few years, assuming that day one of product launch you will have no customers. How are you going to build that customer base? Because you've identified the target market, you've identified the large numbers or the niche numbers. I'm specifically in this section wanted to know how you are actually going to activate and drive that sales process and drive people through that sales funnel that we've been talking about. So the subsections I'm looking for in the marketing plan are an outline of your brand, and again link that back to your core values, justify what your organization is, give examples of how you've constructed your brand, what your brand story is, and what brand messages you were anticipating that will resonate with the customers. In terms of the marketing mix decisions then, in terms of your pricing, link that back to your business model. In this section I need you to justify the pricing strategy that you're using. Again, why are you setting that price? Overcoming your costs is one thing, but why will the price resonate with your customers? Is it sensitive enough, oversensitive in terms of will it outprice customers? Are you looking for exclusivity, so you're setting high prices? Are you looking for mass market, so you're setting low prices? So you need some justification of your pricing strategy by understanding your target market and why they will likely pay the price that you set. In terms of place, this is a section where I'd like you to focus on where you'd be selling your product. Now this could be for the app-based products or services. This could be quite simply using the multiple platforms, but again need justification of why one platform or another, or why all, why you think that your customer groups will be using Android versus Apple platforms, and provide some evidence there. But you may also include in that you will have your own website. You might be using YouTube to generate videos to support people using your app. I just want you to think about how and where the products will be sold and what other channels will be needed to support. If you're delivering services, your place decisions will be linked to, are you utilizing other people's facilities or venues? Are you going to manage your own? Are you going to have multiple venues? And then how are you going to interact with your customers? Again, are you going to have a digital ecosystem or of websites, and that's how you sell your membership? Or will they have to come into venues to actually purchase your products or your services? I would like you to spend a little bit more of the word count focusing on the promotional mix and how you are going to bring this product or service to market, and how you're going to start increasing and generating those sales quickly. So what I'm looking for here is for you to consider the AIDA framework. So the process of getting a customer to become aware, interested, through to the desirable and action is in purchase point. I want you to think about that AIDA process, and I want you to think about what strategies you may need to engage with your customers at each stage, and particularly what type of strategies, tactics you're going to use on different platforms. So the AIDA framework kind of gives you a little structure. You then need to make a decision at each stage of driving a customer from not knowing about your product to purchasing and repurchasing your product, what are you going to do to generate interest, awareness, interest, desire, action? What platforms and what strategies are you going to use? Are you going to use traditional based strategies at each stage? Are you going to use digital? Are you going to use an amalgamation of both? Those decisions have to be justified. So I want to know, if you're going to be using a digital social media strategy, give me some examples of what that might look like, as in you have a Facebook, Instagram, Twitter examples set up around your brand, but you have to clearly justify in this section why working in those social media platforms will be the best places to engage with your customer groups. So I'm looking for creative, effective decision making about how you're engaging at each of those stages, recognizing what you might need to do and the venues and platforms you might need to be in. I'm not wedded to digital versus traditional. I'm looking for you to justify effective decision making around your product, your service, and your customer group. And that section needs to provide some examples of how you anticipate generating that interest, awareness, interest, how you're going to keep the people that are interested in your product engaged, and then how are you going to keep them paying and repaying for your products or your services. Some examples of how people have articulated their promotional mix, screen capture in their webs or social media like Facebook, and included in the document, and further examples in the appendices if you think that works best for you. In terms of the final pitch presentation, you'll be presenting primarily around the Simply Do Ideas framework. We appreciate that you might not be able to produce, if you've got a tangible product that you're pitching, you might not be able to produce that. So effective visuals and imagery on the platform or a website, and your pitch around that will be more than suitable. The aim of the presentation is to allow you to pitch as a group. It needs to be a balanced pitch, so we'd like to see all group members contributing to this section, to this presentation, with some scope for some questions at the end. Structure of the presentation should be focused on the Simply Do Ideas framework, and again, the only additional added section here is an effective introduction of the problem, the hook. So start with that presentation hook. What is your organisation about? What problem do you solve? Then introduce the team members, your backgrounds, why you feel that you're a strong team, and why we should be thinking about investment in you. Then back to the product and give more detailed information about the value proposition and its features. Again, use the group report as your guide to that presentation. So what is it? What's it going to do? What's the value proposition for the customers? What are its major features? Then take me through to the core customer group as you see it, with all the detail that you've provided. So size of the market, segmentation profiles that you think will be the key focus for you, where that market is located, and how quickly you think you may be able to grow. And in terms of competitors, again, I'm looking for a broad overview of your competitor analysis, which framework you've used, who you've looked at, who you see as your key competitors, maybe with a focus then in the presentation on two key threats to you and how you are going to distinguish yourself from those competitors. In terms of contents and cash, then with contents, again, we're looking for effective articulation of what you anticipate being your immediate issues in terms of setting up resources, setup costs, what key partners you're going to need, what subcontracted activities you may need in terms of designers or web designers or marketing companies or manufacturing bases. Just a clear articulation of what you feel your major issues will be in terms of setting this up. That leads then into what you anticipate your key costs being, how you are going to overcome the gap between outlining your costs and starting to generate income to that break-even point. What type of seed funding, loan funding, grant funding strategies are you going to have? So that initial investment of money, how are you going to source that to offset your costs? I'd like you to be very clear about that in that section. You may produce a Kickstarter video to demonstrate that that's what you've done, and screen capture the or show a small snippet of how you're going to generate through a crowdfunding source, or just a strategy, multiple strategies based on the nature of your company. So if you're a not-for-profit, you look at a grant, you look at potential loan, you look at crowdsourcing. Just be very clear about how you're going to generate that initial investment, and then your ongoing revenue generation after that initial investment. So when you start selling your product or your service, how you see that business model rolling out. We will be looking at your use of your presentation skills, your use of the multimedia platforms. It has to look and feel like a company organization presentation. So again, I'm looking for the branding that you use in your report to be complementary in the presentation. And then it's about your performance as a group in terms of your presentation skills, your body language, your pitch, your intonation, your use of voice. Are you engaging? Are you reading from a script? Very monotone. So those are the sorts of things we'll be looking at in performance, because these are the issues that impact on potential investors or potential funders, partners that may want to work with you in the future.